Suns fans, you know what time it is in the PHX.
Empire of the Suns.
Phoenix Suns.
Empire of the Suns.
The Empire of the Suns podcast is brought to you by Sonic. Drive to your nearest Sonic location and don't forget to order your half-price drink or slush anytime in the Sonic app.
Hello there and welcome to Empire of the Suns. My name is Kellen Olson, joined as always by Kevin Zimmerman. What's up, Kevin Zimmerman?
It's late at night. This is real, maybe? What are we doing? Is this real? Is this a dream?
We're doing we are both awake and still in shock of the biggest NBA trade that we've seen since we started covering the NBA at like being very, very low on the scale of like not trying to use too much hyperbole and potentially the biggest trade in the history of sports. Has this ever happened before? I need a list in front of me, but it's certainly, I can't remember it ever happening in the league. If you're somehow figuring this out on the podcast you clicked on where you know the title is Luka Doncic to the Lakers, WTF. Yeah, Luka Doncic is on the Lakers now. Shams Charania with 7 minutes to go in a blowout Suns loss to the Blazers, by the way, tweets out that like Luka and like two other players are going to the Lakers for Anthony Davis, someone else, and like a pick. And the immediate thought for me was hacked, as everyone else's. It's like, why would the Mavericks ever want to trade Luka? Certainly there's some motivation for the Lakers to explore trading Davis because he is the more controversial player, I guess I would say. But little did we know, like the wrinkle to this is that Luka has his own complexities to him that we sort of knew about, but apparently were this bad. So we wait about 4-5 minutes in real time. I immediately think he's hacked and then doubled down because he didn't have a graphic, because he always tweets a graphic as they're taught to increase engagement and all that. If you didn't know why they do that, that's why they do that. And we're waiting. And then Dan Wojcicki from the LA Times, I believe, says it's real. Brad Townsend from the Dallas Morning News says it's real. And then that's like Vince Goodwill, Sam Amick, Mark Stein, like all the other insiders, Bobby Marks, everyone's like, yeah, this is real. And by the way, Sean's reaction was like to tweet like, yeah, this is real. It's like, that's what the hacker would say.
Yeah.
Shams, that's what the hacker would say. We're all making our jokes. I'm making Haynes Briefs jokes, and it's a real thing. And I am not someone who actually like is in shock to the mouth agape reaction to things, but my mouth was agape for a good 45 minutes, Kevin.
I think I sent you. Kanye is also tweeting right now something. Is someone just hacking all of these important accounts? Like, I don't know.
That's what I thought. I was like, I need a video. I need someone on video proving they are real and not AI or hacked. Hold up today's newspaper and tell me Luka is a Laker.
Yeah. To get into it, I guess. When I first saw the trade, like people, we'll talk about how stupid it is for the Mavs in a sec, but I actually was like, I actually think that works a little bit and it could be real. Like, okay, AD's really good. Let's start there. He's really good. Always hurt. Really good.
You feel like the roster balancing that this does for both teams is actually in favor of the Mavericks to a point where there is some level of logic to it and it's not just completely blasphemous.
Like you can sell me that this year's team, the Mavericks are better.
That's 100%.
That's about it.
You don't have to sell me. They are. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's fair. Totally fair.
And they're they're the 8th seed. They're a game and a half or 2 games ahead of the Suns now. So they're not very good right now. You have a lot more roster balance, defense, offense versus and perimeter bigs. Jason Kidd, I'll give him credit, is a really good defensive coach. So you give him a tool, maybe one of the better tools in the league when he's healthy. He hasn't played, I think, more than 60 games in like 4 of the past 6 years, I believe I looked up. But yeah, it's like you're selling out for this year, maybe next year, and giving up maybe one of the 10 best players that will ever play basketball. That's the problem. And by the way, Mikal Bridges got traded for how many first round picks, and you didn't even try to get a few more, a little bit.
It's not like the picks. It's like, why didn't you call Milwaukee and be like, we want Giannis? You know what I mean? Like, you could have gone after, you could have called anyone about anyone.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you're offering, like you said, like one of the best players potentially ever to play the game. He is on a trajectory to do that. And the joke that I made is, so to like continue down like the unwinding amount of events, which I'm sure as the morning after you guys are listening to this, or the morning of you guys listening to this as we're recording at midnight, that there's going to be a lot more news to drop and a lot more behind why exactly this happened. The first thought in everyone's head is like Luka demanded a trade, right? And we just didn't know about it. Because that's the immediate reaction isn't for the price that he went for. It's like, why is he getting traded in the first place? And apparently this just goes back to his conditioning issues. And Nico Harrison comments to ESPN's Tim McMahon talking about the defensive fit here and just a lack of belief that they could win with him as a part of their defense, basically, which, by the way, like we'll talk about the basketball implications in a bit and dive a bit deeper into what you were saying for both teams. But like Luke and LeBron defensively together, like that's rough in terms of like the amount of possessions those guys take off. Like it's going to take the Lakers a while to piece together how this works. But to go back to like in the moment, that's what the Mavericks believed. And there was the report. I couldn't put it together on air. Do you remember if it was either last offseason or the offseason before where McMahon had the report that like Luka came in and he weighed like 260, 270 or something crazy?
2 years ago.
I want to say it was 2 years ago. And that was the year that they tanked at the very end of the year to get Lively, if I remember correctly. So we knew about this, but as Brian Windhorst said via a current All-Star that texted him on SportsCenter, like, imagine how much they must have disliked Luka. The joke that I made on the air is like, he just didn't show up for his PT for his calf strain earlier today. And they were like, enough's enough. Like that was the joke. But Brad Townsend reporting that this has been in the work for weeks. And that's like the top 3 craziest things. Okay. 1, they traded Luka. 2 might be how they kept this a secret for weeks. Like, how many people knew about this? That's crazy.
You know when like defense, not to get way off topic, but when defense companies are like, we're building a giant missile to like blow up other missiles, and like the engineer at the lowest level who makes like the missile that fires the other missile, it's like he doesn't know exactly what's happening, but by doing the math and guessing, he can probably figure out this is going into space. This is like, that's probably what the Utah Jazz were. They're like, wait, why are you need to move that much that? And the only person this could be is Luka, right?
Yeah, because that's the Jazz and several other teams, according to Jake Fisher, were contacted about being the third team in this deal. So to your point, they're figuring out like, if you're moving like these guys, that must be a pretty big deal. You guys only have these big salaries. Well, yeah. But nothing, like no peep of this whatsoever. Not even like maybe there's a random like sources person 3 weeks ago who's like has 2,000 followers who tweeted this out 3 weeks ago because they heard Jeannie Buss at dinner, but like she's not saying that in public anywhere. Like it's just like Rob Pelinka is not telling his family. Like no one is peeping a word of this to anyone. So like that part of it is so fascinating to me because we live in an era right now where everything gets out. Like, you know, my theory on this is that like Shams has at least 6 drafted tweets ready for a trade that he's just waiting to like release that it's happening. Not that it's already agreed upon, but like he knows already like the team that Cam Johnson is going to, or like has a chance of going to, you think like that kind of thing, perhaps not to use Cam as the example of who it is, but just thinking of the random guy that's going to get traded in a couple of days. I really loved KD's perspective to Dwayne. And his was, our team's now going to look at things not working with like super duper stars and be like, we have to, like, it's not working. Like we have to, like, our shakeups of this magnitude going to not become the norm necessarily, but more like realistic in front office's eyes to make things happen. I thought that was a really interesting thought from him that I hadn't considered, that I could see other front offices sort of looking at this. But again, to go back to the core part of this deal, Oklahoma City, for those of you not familiar, you can only trade like 4 of your own first round picks, like that kind of Stepien rule stuff goes on. I do not know for sure what like the actual CBA rules are in terms of trading a other picks and the limit, the cap on those, but I know that you can make more picks get involved. You can trade more than four. So OKC could have come to Dallas with, or not even them, like San Antonio. There are other teams around the league that have a lot more first round picks. And Dallas, this is an example we've used on the pod for years, buddy. The Sabonis trade with Halliburton, where it's like everyone was like, "Why didn't you call us about Halliburton?" They're like, "You did not have Domantas Sabonis, who we wanted really badly." And it was like no other team had Anthony Davis. Again, like why call Milwaukee about Giannis? Like call Denver about Jokic? Call the Suns about Devin Booker or
Okay,
Kevin
so
Durant? Like
qu-
call someone.
quick quick thing on that. I mean, I get not doing that because then you're putting it out there and then Luka catches wind and then bad things relationship
But you're
wise
already
happen.
trading him. He's already gone. He's already
Yeah.
gone. You're already
One
trading him.
note, you called for I need a Haynes brief on this when we weren't sure if it was real. Haynes brief actually said Nico Harrison worked at Nike and was close to AD there. So that's a very clear like, bro, I'm getting my bro back. By the way, Nico Harrison is Montana State grad apparently. So shout out to Pops Olson.
Not a good endorsement for Bruce Olson to hear right there. That's tough. That's tough. And Nico Harrison, by the way, like this isn't a slouch. Like one of the guys who in the last couple of years has like emerged as one of like the great young minds in front offices. But now he's a bozo forever for making this deal, unless it works out, unless Luka weighs like 260 every year and relaxes in LA and proves to be this unmovable albatross of a contract. And for lack of a better phrase here, and not to pile on to something Suns relevant here that people are tired of hearing about, but DeAndre Ayton's it, where he gets paid what the contract he wants and then he relaxes a bit.
He's already been paid. Yeah, it's like the extra 100 mil is gonna make him lazy. Like I don't know. And honestly, he hasn't had. There's a. I'm not trying to get into strength trainers would probably very much disagree, but he hasn't had a terrible injury, and him being lazy actually might like I don't know. He pulls his muscles every now and then. He hasn't had a major injury. Like it's not. It's whatever. I don't know. He's ridiculous talent. I just don't. There's a reason anyway. So take this to the Lakers end. To me, it immediately put in my brain. LeBron probably said he's done after this year. Like that's my conspiracy theory. And either way, they've got to figure out, and they just have locked in having another superstar for 10 years, 7
Yeah,
years.
and to the point of like learning more details, that's a totally reasonable thing to like conclude. But apparently, and again, this is where like maybe people are lying, but Sham said like the players, no one knew about this. Luca didn't know, AD didn't know, LeBron didn't know. Like again, like it was super duper tight. How many people know? Which is like I want to know, like it's like who knows the nuclear launch codes. It's like I want to know the 9 individuals who knew about this for the last couple of weeks, how much it was. There's going to be a tremendous the best basketball reporting of the year will be whoever gets all the details of this. Like it's already kind of done there for
Who
sure.
who came up with the idea one? Who evaluated it and said, "Yeah, go ahead and do that, Nico. That sounds like a good idea." I want to know those names.
Well, yeah, and to your point on Arizonasports.com, like go back to Gambo's scouting report for as much flack as we caught about that, rightfully so. That was a legitimate talent evaluator in the NBA who thought that about Luka Doncic, and it is the reason why 2 teams passed on him.
Yeah.
Now, are those 2 teams idiots for doing that? Yes, they were. Are the Mavericks idiots for trading him? Yes, he won Rookie of the Year, Kevin, and then he hasn't stopped making first team All NBA since then. Even if he continues to not win you championships, that level of production, you're not going to. Luka could be 80% of the player that he has been so far for the rest of his career, and this deal would be a gigantic win for the Lakers still. Um,
By the way, if
it's
if he's that bad of a whether it's locker room with other players, lazy
plays
culture,
too much Overwatch. He just plays way too much Overwatch, Kev.
yeah,
Too much of a
like
gamer.
where is the evidence that this is so poisonous and not good for the franchise? Because like I watch the Phoenix Suns for our job, and I don't think KD or Book are necessarily bad guys, poisonous, bad culture, but they have trouble. There are cracks in the foundation of the culture here that aren't in Dallas, I don't think. And like I just don't get it. Like
The full circle moment here is really interesting to me too, because if you'll remember, there was I can't remember the full roster exactly, but it was like Wes Matthews, a couple other guys that they had for Luka's rookie year. And remember, they weren't really like warming up to him that well. He wasn't getting the ball a lot. They weren't passing to him too much. And it was clear that they didn't really mess with him. And what did Dallas do? They traded all those guys at the deadline. Like they were like, okay, if you guys can't get behind this guy being the guy, goodbye. The door is that way. That's how committed they were to this guy immediately, like they should have been. But it grew on them. So like I'm like Tim McMahon's gonna have a great story coming up in the morning, I'm sure. Like Brad Townsend, same kind of thing. The Dallas side, and then how about the Lakers side? Like Shams, who I said this on the radio, the most impressive moment of his career to me is when he went on SportsCenter and gave like a 2-minute monologue on it, like with a bunch of facts, didn't stammer once. Like this whole thing is developing. He's the one to break it. It's the biggest trade in the league's history, and he's the one to break it. By the way, is Woj like more psyched that he didn't have to deal with this, or is he the competitive side of him gearing up again and being like, the year I give it up, seriously, I could have broken the biggest trade in the sports history. But in that soliloquy, he mentioned that the Lakers huddled on this, and then again, Townsend's reporting saying it took several weeks. Like, what is there to talk about? So like the Lakers side is really interesting. I'm sure part of their meetings were how would LeBron feel about this, because they don't want to tell anyone, including LeBron. LeBron's very tight with Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Do you want to get into basketball? Just start with the on-court stuff that we were talking about there, and then go to how we believe this impacts the Suns, which will get into like standings, long-term, short-term, the trade market itself over the next couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of covered the Mavs. I mean, like
So,
yeah, go. You go yours.
okay, I need to like see the roster in my head first to exactly completely understand it. So Lively is more or less out for the year, right? Maxi Kleba and Markieff Morris were the other part of the trade. The full trade, just so we say it. Luka, Maxi Kleba, Markieff Morris, Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and 2029 first. Imagine Max Christie being the Tumani Kamara of this, where it's going to be like, can you believe that the Dallas got Max Christie in the like Max Christie hits three threes in the third quarter of like Western Conference Finals game 6, and everyone's like, the key to the Luka Doncic deal. Like, shut up. I can't wait for that. Yeah, I'm excited to watch Kyrie and Luka together, first of all, but just like their roster right now, they are the more equipped in the short term to like transition into this, right? Because Gafford and Lively are there still. Lively out for the year. So you've got AD, who is starting at center. The ESPN website, interestingly enough, there was I can't remember if it was a direct comment by Davis or a sourced thing where he doesn't want to play the 5 anymore.
Yeah.
So is Dallas going to accommodate their new star and play him at the 4? So it's Kyrie, Spencer, Dinwiddie, and Clay is the starting lineup they have in here. There's no PJ Washington here. He's injured. Najee Marshall is here. Quentin Grimes is here. Christie, who had been playing fairly well for the Lakers, not a breakout star by any means, but someone who looked like a potential rotation player. And then Clay. So it's one of those moves where for Dallas, I think that it makes sense organically, but I'll go back to the comments made by the players. Book is a very basketball purist guy on like pretty much anything with the game, which is like a good stance to have. And he was just like, it's going to take time for both these teams. I don't know. Cause he was asked like, what do you think about it? And he's like, it's going to take a lot of time, because even if there's a version of this trade where it's like two superstars of this level traded for each other and it's a perfect fit on both sides, I don't think either of those teams would still be able to contend, because it's changing too much of your dynamic in the middle of the season on the fly, because like they're not used to running offense through a big in Dallas. Now they have to do that because you have Anthony Davis. He's not just going to be a different version of Derek Lively. You have to give him the ball. So that's my angle from Dallas' side. But now you get Jason Kidd's defense back with AD again. Like, you're going to be a juggernaut defensive team now, because you were already pretty darn good, and this just made you exceptionally better defensively because AD is that guy.
Yeah.
So Kyrie's played really well this year. Can he carry an offense to that level on the perimeter? They don't have any other initiators on purpose, because like you don't want any other dribble guys. They
No.
probably need a dribble guy. Before the before the trade went down, or before we figured out the Lively Gafford thing I mentioned with the listeners and stuff earlier, like I was thinking like Gafford for Grayson Allen, the salaries worked there. And it was like, yeah, like Dallas is going to be looking for another off-ball guy, another shooter, another whatever the 3-and-D percentage pie chart is you get of that person. But it's I think they need another dribble guy. Is that where you would start with Dallas and kind of what they need from this?
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Jordan Clarkson?
Where are their, I don't know where their salaries are, but that's where the Levine, Brandon Ingram stuff suddenly gets super
Ooh,
weird, and
that's such a good call.
this could get super crazy, I
Yeah,
guess.
that's such a great call. I did not think about them at all. Wow.
Uh, I don't know where they are in luxury tax and that kind of thing, so I guess I should pump brakes on that, but this is where weird stuff's going to happen if this is already happening.
If Golden State wants to redump Schroeder, like he would be kind of perfect for what they need. Um, let's go to the Lakers before talking about like the Western Conference standings and like how we feel about both teams, like their status for this year. I've kind of spoiled my answer already. You have more to say for sure.
Yeah, you can look at, tell me who their important role players are going to be around this, because I think you can get by with Braun and Luka. They're going to run a bunch of random stuff. I'm curious what Redick has. Like, they're the 5 seed right now, I think, and they're playing well, and Braun's still awesome. I think it was a low risk for this year. Like, I don't think they're going to be a title contender or anything, but like for the future, this thing just makes sense for them
I've just
completely.
been fist pumping you into the camera for 5 seconds because I just realized something. It's
What?
Christian Coloco's time, baby. The starting center for the Los Angeles Lakers. It's time. He can do it.
Yeah.
It's time. Jackson Hayes is their starting center. They were playing Trey Jemison over Coloco earlier. I was mad when I saw that, of
Yeah.
course, as the biased U of A person that I am. So the immediate thought for me with them is that depending on how good you feel about Austin Reeves, he is potentially now like the best player available for the trade, the best asset available for the trade, I should say, because his contract is insane. Like it was an absolute heist that he got on. Redick has been, by the way, like JJ Redick 9 months ago podcasting. Now he coaches Luka Doncic and LeBron James. He's the guy like in that is in the hands of now. Not to say he is ill-equipped or whatever, but just like where that guy was 9 months ago compared to now, like it was a crazy story beforehand. Now it's 5 times more crazy. So you've got LeBron. I'm going to fill out the starting lineup. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, LeBron, Luka. Insert buyout center here.
Yusuf
I
Nurkic.
don't know. Yep. Okay. Is there a salary?
I don't
Could
know.
they be looking for a center? We'll talk about that in a sec. I'm going to start Dorian Finney-Smith, obviously. I think I need to start Jared Vanderbilt too. Like I think I need defense. I think I
Yeah.
need a whole lot of defense. So that's 5 guys right there. I think that's the 5 that I'm starting, and we're just the largest team in the world. We're playing 4 supersized wings, and we're playing a big, and we're rolling. You could go the other way and go super small. Maybe you want to bring Gabe Vincent into the starting lineup instead. I think that it can actually work, especially with LeBron, and once he figures this out. But he's 40 years old, Kevin, and I wish this was like I wish LeBron was just 3 years younger when they did this, because I really want to see it at its full capabilities, and we're not going to see it because it's just there's not enough time for him and Luka to figure this out. Because a big like moment for me in like learning basketball was the first game the Big Three in Miami played. Remember they were in Boston. You remember that? And they got smacked,
Oh, yeah.
and everyone was super excited to see them. And then Boston, with continuity and cohesion, was like, it's
No.
not that easy. But then you saw like the flashes of it. Like I think that's going to be this year. We're going to see flashes of Luka and LeBron together. We're going to see the high ceiling. We're going to see the low floor too. I think I already said this on this. I've talked in a couple of different places now.
Defensively, yeah.
Yeah, 2 guys who take possessions off a lot, and now they're just not going to be able to. But there's no reason to have a third person who commands the offense. You're just going to have, for all 48 minutes, it's going to be one of these 2 guys running your offense. It's not going to be a huge wear on LeBron because Luka is going to be the primary guy still. And LeBron will secede to Luka. Like he will. Now, like who takes the final shot? That's where it gets more interesting. But he's already like done this for AD the past couple of years. Like remember the finals when they won. AD was the best player on that team, and like LeBron didn't have a problem with it. It didn't seem like he had a problem with it, at least from our observation. So as you can tell, I like this for the Lakers more than a lot of people do in terms of like the basketball fit. I just think the amount of time it's going to take to maximize those two guys together is there. I think my favorite part of it is that you have Reeves now that you can move right now. So can you get Reeves for a good center and another wing? If you can, like, I think this team could be really, really good.
Short
Suns
short
fans are
answer.
like, Bradley Beal and Yusuf Nurkic. That's what you can get him for. And they're just figuring out a way to
Short
make this
answer
work,
is, do these things matter for the championship this year? No, I think for
no.
me. Yeah.
This is my take on the Timberwolves again, right? Where it's just like you can't do this and
Yeah.
then win.
How's it going for the Timberwolves? Yeah.
Not good. Not good at all. Trade market implications for the Suns. So we're recording this Saturday, 12:30. As you can tell, I am under the belief that Dallas and LA are not done. I think they're going to get moving, and I think that it is helpful to them that this was not a spur of the moment 4 hours ago. This wasn't a thing. They've been working on this for weeks. So their front office has had weeks to figure out, like, for LA, it's like, okay, do we want to move Reeves? Do we want to move Gabe Vincent? Do we want to move this? Like, the Lakers still have more first round picks to give up, I believe, which is like another crazy part of this is that they could have asked for more
Yeah.
first. Dallas, same kind of thing. But from the Suns' perspective, are there any scraps to pick off of that roster? I think that you obviously want to be the team. You want to see if they're desperate enough to take on Yusuf Nurkic, if they're unlucky enough and looking for other centers. But like that's where there's your Reeves team. Like, what about, can you get a wing from New Orleans or no, wait, I'm mixing up. I had Jonas Valanciunas on the Pelicans, man. That doesn't work. But can you go to the Wizards and can you get is there like can they aggregate now? What apron are they? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a part of this. But can you go to the Wizards? Can you get Kuzma and Jonas for Reeves and whatever? Can you do something like that? I don't know if that's a perfect trade. I know that Kuzma's been horrible this year. But on the Nurkic front, if you're curious with salary numbers, Reeves is under Nurk. He's at 12.9 million this year. Again, is insane. Vincent at 11 million. Rui Hachimura is also under that number at 17 million. That Rui is like the type of like flawed but gettable guy that you would love for the Suns just because he's so big and athletic. But I don't know why the Lakers would do that unless they're truly coming up empty on every single other option at big and need to go for Nurk.
Yeah. I guess I'm trying to think, we mentioned it earlier, how much this impacts the big guns, the other max contracts, the Levines, the Butlers, the Beals. Even if the Suns aren't related, I don't really know how it changes that. But yeah, I just think that maybe the deadline will be a dud, but I just think this means there's a lot of people trying to maneuver big.
Yeah, I wonder the the inclination, the desire to retaliate in this kind of thing. But again, like we had a couple panicked callers, rather doom and gloom, and I understand why, because the point that I made on there and the point that I'll make here is like the Lakers have done it yet again. I can't remember the exact path for Wilt and where he started, but I know Kareem is one where they got him without drafting him. It's like how many franchises don't draft a superstar and still wind up with one, or one of the greatest ever. Shaq is another one. LeBron just happened a couple years ago. And then Luka now is crazy. And like even Pau Gasol is not a superstar by any means, but he was a very, very good all-star who Memphis, with Jerry West calling and just
That was a silly
them.
trade
And,
also, yeah.
no other team, Kwame Brown, who could forget it? All-time Stephen A. Isn't it crazy that that's what Stephen A. Smith was known for in my life like 8 years ago? I used to play that video to my friends in college and be like, have you heard of Stephen A. Smith? Did you see this video on ESPN News when he's breaking down the Kwame? That was Stephen A. Smith. He was on ESPN News breaking down NBA trades.
It's weird because I saw that exact clip floating around today for some reason before this.
Talking about Kwame Brown. He's a bona fide scrub. I still know it. Still know it. Okay, yeah, and that's another part of this. But the doom for like this year, it's like, no, it's still OKC's to lose. Like OKC will hammer both of these teams this year
Yeah.
easily. They will dismantle them. I still have Houston and Memphis above them, but again, like if it clicks into place for both of these teams with the move or two to go that they have, I think that I can kind of be talked into them at least pushing some of those teams deeper. Do you feel like this makes Dallas and the Lakers more likely to finish ahead of the Suns than you did 4 hours ago?
Yes and yes. I mean, I did just watch the Suns lose. I think discounting that, yes and yes also.
I will say no on the no on the Mavericks, just because if AD misses 3 weeks, like
Yeah.
they still have Gafford technically, but it's like then it's just Kyrie and a bunch of guys, which is sort of what it's been already right now.
Yeah.
But like Maxi Kleba was like him and Christie like being involved in this deal does matter to some senses. Like Kleba's been really up and down the last 2 years with injuries and stuff, but those were guys that were in the rotation for those teams where it matters. The Lakers are the team where more than the Mavs, where I feel like if they make the right move, I'll say yes. For now, I'll say no. But if they get the right center, because like their center rotation right now is like it's worse than the Suns right now. You want to talk Blazers Suns, by the way, before we go?
No, I want to go to bed.
Yeah, I agree with you. Do you feel like this change?
Tom Chambers literally in the post game show, I don't know if you saw, he's like, I don't even want to talk about this game anymore.
Yeah, we did for people who don't know, we did the entire Suns post game show, and I walked in like mid first segment, but I'm pretty sure we addressed that we weren't going to talk about the Suns game, but we just did a whole hour on just the trade basically. Um, to answer the question before we go that people have, do you think this impacts Jimmy at all one way or the other? I don't think it changes anything, right? Makes the
No,
price like lower. I don't know.
I mean, it's unrelated, but it provides hope that crazy stuff happens because that's crazy. That's crazier than Bradley Beal being like, I'll go to the Detroit Pistons or Chicago Bulls. So that's all I got.
Well, the best content that the Suns provided to this was there are multiple reaction videos of Book and Durant being handed tablets that show the trade news, and like they look like us, like they're just like normal everyday people, just absolutely completely stunned.
Did you hear? Dwayne posted Book post game, and he said Luka Garza question mark, like, do you mean he got traded? That's the only Luka I know who would get traded. Oh no, the other one.
It's going to be interesting to see what the Mavs do, because this is the type of thing where you could be doing something that's like polarizing, but you don't expect to be the laughingstock of the league and stuff. So what damage control stories are they going to leak now? How bad was this with Luka? Because I see like Nate Jones tweeting, for example, he just doesn't buy that this was about conditioning. He thinks that Luka was like gonna ask out, or he was gonna demand a trade, and they knew that he was unhappy already or something, and that's why they did this. But like everyone is reporting the contrary, and I believe like the Mavs have some damage control to do on their ends with like what exactly sort of
Not just I like
comes out.
defense. Defense wins championships is a good. Yeah, no, probably not.
All right. It doesn't feel like we're done, but we're done. We don't have you can talk about this for like 4 hours if you want, but you have a child, another child coming. Hey, at least this happened before that, right?
Yeah, we're still cruising. We're good.
Good to hear. Great to hear everyone's doing okay. All right, we'll be back when the Suns make a trade. I think we feel confident that the Suns are going to make a trade. We don't really have anything to give you guys on the basketball front. They won a game and looked good, lost a game and didn't look good, won a game and looked good, lost a game that didn't look good.
Sounds like a 500 team.
It sounds like a 500 team to me, buddy. Thank you everyone so much for listening. Again, Empire of the Suns on Twitter is where you can follow us. Kellen Olson for me, K Zimmerman AZ for you, ArizonaSports.com for all of the latest. Until next time, my mouth has to stop saying words now, apparently. But like now that I've like gotten in the rhythm of finally talking, I don't want to stop because it took me so long to get into this rhythm and stop being shocked. But I have to. You have to go to sleep, buddy. All right. Good night, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're at. Okay,
Still
stop.
going.
Stop, Kellen. Still going. He's still going. How about that Arizona win, huh?